It's a beautiful day again, isn't it? And all of us are happy to be alive, hale and hearty today. My name is Elizabeth, and today's program will continue where we stopped yesterday. Of course, is Weekend Deal, reaching you from the Nigerian Television Authority. And yesterday, somebody said something, and when I went home, I kept thinking about it. He said that a lot of things that happen to us is because of our attitude, the activities we carry on. Sometimes we say that destiny is destiny, it's already designed, but I can tell you authoritatively that you can retweak your destiny by your activities. And that's exactly what he portrayed yesterday. It is raining season, given it is from nature, God-given activity, and the rains are doing their job. We also need to compliment them, compliment that work of the rain by ensuring that we get to enjoy it and live our lives clean. Otherwise, we get things like flooding. Yes, and when flooding happens, your destiny somewhere is retweaked by your own activity. When we clog the gutters, when we build on waterways, when we refuse to, pay heed to the authorities. Flooding is still our focus today, and it is still Weekend Deal. Focus.
Exactly. You're looking beautiful, radiant.
Come, Aisha, sometimes I get really angry when people look through my mind and see what I'm going to wear. I told you I was... why are you sporting yellow?
It's bright and early, and then, of course, we need to put color out there. Yes, it's a beautiful day here, and of course, the focus is still on flooding and probable solutions. And of course, today we intend to continue in that direction.
Definitely, yes. Because it's something that, in my place they say, and of course I know it's everywhere, when you're carrying, someone's corpse, and passing in front of some other person, sometimes we look at it, okay, it's a log of wood, But when it is your own, you now realize the pain those people are feeling.
Exactly.
Sometimes the people who are dumping the refuse are not the direct, do I use the word in parentheses, beneficiaries of the flood, whatever they create, some other person gets to, partake of it when eventually it becomes a problem. Those who are living somewhere else, they dump the water, clears it over the points.
Exactly.
It's a certain area is flooded, usually around the valley area. The people who live around there begin to suffer. It's important to find out that if I am suffering, I'm going to look for a solution. And the solution is probably to move to where it's better. And sometimes when I move to where it's better, I begin to inconvenience you. But all the same, let's see. Let's put ourselves in the right perspective for today's discussion. And that's talking about the background that's put together by Francis Ogbe.
Floods are major disasters affecting many countries of the world, as it has posed tremendous danger to people's lives and properties. Floods cause about 1/3 of all death, 1/3 of all injuries from natural disasters.
We've been hearing about the flood disasters in different parts of the world, but this year it came with a big bang. What happened in Germany, what happened in Belgium, in US, in other parts of Europe. So letting us know that something must be triggering this particular flooding incident. We are talking about global warming, climate change issues, and so on and so forth. Maybe it has gotten to a certain point that nature is now revolting against man.
Heavy seasonal rains are a regular feature of life in Nigeria, and towns close to the country's main rivers are particularly vulnerable. In mid-July 2021, for instance, the major business district of Lagos Island experienced one of its worst floods in recent years. Consequently, Scientific projections predict that Lagos may become uninhabitable by the end of this century as sea levels rise due to climate change.
That of Lagos State, especially Lagos Island, is quite peculiar. Most of the time, due to infiltration from the ocean, from the beach, so the place that is actually the dry land has some level of saturation of the soil beneath. You could see that it's almost at the same level with the ocean beach. So that's what actually caused it. And also, Lagos is said to be among the 6 fastest sinking cities in the world. But when we talk about Lagos, you should understand we're talking about Lagos Island.
Nigeria's flooding is mainly human-induced, with current poor town planning practices and inadequate or non-existent environmental infrastructure contributing to the issue.
The last one that happened entered someone's estate. It then means that the person did not build in the right place. It flooded the whole estate. It means that that estate is seated on a waterway or green area.
It's when you are building your house in an estate or whatever, make provision for flood. If you see what happened at the Sunday Dewey Estate or even Threadmore Estate, you will see where the flood is going. That is the road. So what should be done thereafter will be to go and build adequate drainage system.
The indiscriminate disposal of waste is damaging the street as well as blocking the drains during the raining season. Therefore, the need for good attitudinal change is imperative to checking improper waste disposal.
In Kubwa, there is a channel, about 3 channels, that water passes almost every 3 years. Anytime they open the dam, it follows there too. You find out that these Bola people will come and carry their waste, the waste that they are supposed to take to the proper place, and be pouring this inside the water. When this water comes, it will pack the whole things, go and block its way, and then overflow into people's houses.
There are different types of waste. Some of them are degradable, some of them are non-degradable. Especially this plastic one, waterproof, as we call it. People talk about sachet water. I was in N'Djamena, that's Chad Republic. In the entire city, no matter who you are, nobody will sell anything to you in the supermarket anywhere. You can't see it with waterproof, with cellophane or polythene bag. Not at all. No matter what you buy, they will use an envelope to package it for you in the supermarket or wherever in the whole city. But here, we are using plastic, virtually everything, plastic.
One area in which Nigeria has attempted to establish forward thinking is through early warning systems. Nigerian Meteorological Agency make predictions about potential flooding and warning every year. But are the people and relevant agencies taking precautionary measures?
Right from the time of Noah, when you give them information that has to come, that this thing is going to come or something is about to happen, they don't pay much attention to it until it happens. We are never proactive. We are always inactive. We don't prepare for anything until when it happens, then we'll now start making preparation.
Relocate to where? To move human beings from one point to the other is not an easy thing. There have been, this committee has been building what we call flood hostels in strategic locations across the country. I have visited out of Lokoja several times. The government should be able to assist also to provide more of such in different locations.
If the impact of flooding is to be reduced in the future, the consequences of rapid urbanization and poor urban planning needs to be addressed.
Issues about flood is global and it has come to stay due to climate change. We should do our best to develop resilience. We should also heed the warnings. Individuals should also take responsibilities in terms of their clean environment.
Our focus on Weekend Deal today will be on flooding in Nigeria and probable solutions to curbing its spread.
Our attitudes actually affect directly or indirectly the quality of life we live in. And when this report was going on, of course, my co-presenter here was telling me a story about how she met someone
It was a
throwing
lady.
something in a drainage manhole.
Yes, a lady. I was actually taking my early morning walk. She swept her house, big, huge, and was dumping into the gutter. And I stopped. I said, "Madam, what you're doing is wrong." And she stood quiet, listening to me. I tried my best to educate her. And when I finished, instead of the woman to say, "Okay, I have heard," you know what she told me? "Get out. Fatty, Shabi, you came to jog. Go and burn your fat and stop disturbing me."
And you know, funny thing is, these people, when they go out of the shores of Nigeria and they
do
see that
differently.
the rules there is for you to dump your trash at the dumpster, instead of actually doing that, they will do that there. But once they are home, they
Home
feel
sweet
it's
home.
home. We
Bam,
can just
throw
do
it
that.
away.
And it actually has a direct effect to flooding, because it will go and block these drainage and manholes. We don't know the use. It's actually meant for it to allow water flow. And of course, that is what Charles Obike put together. Let's take a look.
Despite previous years of flooding experience in various parts of Nigeria, the obvious signals of awaiting tropical rains still remain our drowning unpreparedness.
Combating the flooding or any other challenges that we have in the society, I don't think it's the responsibility of governments or those who are in power alone. Everyone is concerned because most of these things affect everyone. Government may be trying, then those who are put in charge, that's the supervising bodies, it is the same individuals who are there. And the attitude of individuals will need to change so that we'll have the effect of the collective activities, that the periodical raining, these things that are seasonal, they still catch us unaware. It is not very good. People prepare for things that are of this nature. Things that periodically appear, you get prepared because next year you know it's coming. I don't think we are doing enough in order to prevent it because already we are there. It's already raining.
Examining this series of shortcomings to face an ever-growing threat in the face of climate change require precautionary measures.
Yes, we know that it's as a result of climate changes, but then we'll need to do our best. Apart from the drainages being blocked because of the way we throw our waste, we generate a lot of waste, but we don't take care of them, throw them anyhow. And these things block the drainages, causing the magnitude of flooding when it rains.
The impact of experienced floods in the country are indicating waves of realities that need not be downplayed by people. Consequently, the improper channeling and neglect of waterways, drainages, rivers, canals, sewers, manholes, and streams contribute to unprecedented experience associated with flooding.
You hear of rivers overflowing their banks. Yes, because when we don't dredge rivers, the depth of the rivers seem to reduce, and then the possibility of these rivers overflowing their banks is there. So when we maintain the channels, we dredge our rivers or lakes within living environments, it will reduce the magnitude of the effect of flooding. Countries like Japan can get ready for tsunami, and then that tsunami in going to oceans to build a sort of a dam in order to prevent it affecting their society. I don't think to dredge River Niger or River Benue or whatever lake you have around so that the tributaries going to the villages will not have much effect on the villages is much. It's just because of our indifferent attitude.
The need for increased meteorological, hydrological, and geographical experts working hand in hand with relevant agencies and stakeholders to address the widespread of flooding is vital.
You know, one thing I learned in life early enough is to learn my lessons from the water. Water is one thing you can never intimidate, yes. Block it here, it will find a way. It has no enemy and it will keep moving. That's one thing I learned in life. And I always tell myself, whatever happens, find your way.
Exactly.
You know, beautifully so too. Now, talking about that, if people get to understand that you cannot intimidate water, the pathways are created, they will not block it. Exactly. I know that yesterday you told us your unforgettable story.
Exactly.
of how you lost your exhaust, and that's somewhere around Lokogoma.
Lokogoma, yes, exactly.
Okay. And so we're going to visit Lokogoma. In the
Okay.
eye of NT Abuja, get to find out what happened to Aisha for real. Let's go.
Rainy season is indeed a tough time for the residents of Lokogoma district of the FCT, especially the mass housing estate located along River Kabusa waterways, where a high degree of flooding collects due to obstruction of these waterways with illegal structures and blocked drainages. In recent times, the FCT Emergency Management Agency, under the Federal Capital Territory Administration, is working around the clock to remedy the situation by putting in place stringent safety measures.
We have no problem with Lokogoma again since 2019, and at this moment it's one of the estates that is very safe, considering what we have done in that place. You are aware that more than 200 houses were pulled down, and also a lot of activities took place, and the community themselves have owned up to their own estate, and they are working hard to ensure that nobody caused any infraction that could lead to any further loss of lives or property in that area. So we are glad to inform the resident that there is no cause for alarm in Lokogoma. We appreciate the tremendous support that the residents of the FCT are giving to us. The sensitization and the enlightenment campaigns that we are doing is yielding good results because a lot of people are adhering to our early warning system. Only few, you can't have 100% complete. And so we really appreciate by the time we continue to do what we are doing, along with the stakeholders, I'm pretty sure that everybody will get to know. The awareness is much now in anywhere you go. And you will see our men during the rain going around checking the flood-prone areas and then guiding the public. So that is also creating awareness. The vanguard and volunteers that we have, they are also helping us in propagating that gospel. And by the grace of God, we are going to converge with the local divers and then train, brainstorm, and then also give them the next line of action.
Lokogoma have been suffering from the flood, but seriously, when they do the tiling road from the Lokogoma junction, from where they recorded last time that people died from the car, where water took the car. So when they do the road, seriously, I don't experience anything in Lokogoma again.
I think the government have tried. Yeah, we have to give kudos to the government, but I think they need to do more, right? They really need to do more because, especially at that Dogongada road, it's terrible. Honestly, it's really terrible.
To stem the occurrence of previous mishaps, strict safety rules and regulations have been put in place.
There's no sympathy to anybody who, cut corners when constructing any house or office. So the same thing with those who block the waterways. Automatically, no matter how much you spend, that building will be brought down so that we can save life and properties. of the citizens.
The Lokogoma district of the Federal Capital Territory has enjoyed and still is enjoying tremendous geographical improvements, leaving more to be desired.
Well, it's good to know that measures are being put in place in order to see that this menace of flooding is actually under control. And for a fact, I know this year, around that Galadima roundabout where the flood happened and took that permanent secretary last year. Now they have actually blocked that road. So you have to follow the main road so that you don't get into trouble following that side.
It's better. What I tell people is when you're buying land, look for approval. It's important. Because if you feel, okay, government's eye is not here, their eye could come there just as you're finishing your building and they demolish it.
Exactly.
And then we cry.
Yeah, I know. And then still we are going straight to Ibadan, where we'll look at a situation report of flooding of River Ogunpa.
The survival of humanity may have been put in a grave danger if there is no regular and adequate rainfall. Rain not only brings relief but also ensures freshness of the earth's surface. As important as rainfall is to human existence, so also has it become a source of mystery to most countries across the globe in recent years. Flooding resulting from heavy and prolonged rainfall continues to threaten and ravage the modern-day world. Global warming is believed to have been largely responsible for severe weather patterns all over the world.
The rainfall events are more intense, and within a short time you have so much rainfall being produced or being generated as a result of changes in the climate, because of global warming. We are having intensification of the hydrological cycle. As a result of increasing population and increased urbanization, you have more artificial surfaces, because much of the area is now being built up. So with the built up surfaces, you have less infiltration of rainfall. And because you have more artificial surfaces, the storm runoff being generated is much more. So the drainage capacity is not commensurate with the storm runoff to carry the storm runoff.
Ibadan and other places in Oyo State in southwestern Nigeria is also badly affected occasionally by flood-related disasters. The most recent was recorded in August 26, 2011, which resulted in the death of about 220 people and serious damages to property and infrastructure, while it rendered many homeless. This, however, cannot be compared to the large-scale devastation caused by the Ogunpa flood disaster in 1980, said to have claimed over 400 lives and loss of property estimated in billions of naira. Aside these major ones, pockets of flood disaster of varying degrees is a common experience in Ibadan and other parts of Oyo State. Urbanization and many other human activities have been attributed to incessant flooding of the environment. With the forecast that there will be more rainfall in many parts of the country, coping with flooding will largely be determined by measures put in place.
Before the rainy season comes, we've seen a lot of activities being taught by the present government to see that all our major rivers and streams are dredged, to see that we have free flow of water in all these rivers. And secondly, I think some government functionaries have been put up to see that people are highly educated and mobilized towards the control of flood, especially in the aspect of waste management.
When the government says your building must be so meters away from a river, you must enforce it. And then that means our town planning departments, town planning officers and so on, they should be up and doing.
As the world continues to battle the effect of global warming, adaptation is considered to be key in tackling the problem of flooding through holistic measure, policy and plan, coupled with change in attitude of the people to care more about their environment.
Yes, adaptation, mitigation, all we suffer. That was the stress from NIMET yesterday, and we told ourselves that we will not suffer. So we will implement the adaptation and mitigation. While we're munching on that, let's take a break. The show is still Weekend Deal, and of course the channel is the Nigerian Television Authority. We're still moving on. Now, let me ask you, Aisha,
Yes.
do you know the Oyo River?
Oyo River. I think it's somewhere in Ogun.
They're
Ogun
very
State.
smart. Did you do geography?
A little.
All right. The Oyo River has a story around it. It has a reputation, actually, and it borders, the literature borders around flooding. NTA Abekuta took time out to tell us the story. Let's listen to it together.
The flood outlook and predictions for the year 2021 by NIMET puts Ogun State on the list of states in Nigeria for high-risk flood disaster. Forecast has it that July 8th and 15th were likely to come with heavy downpour that would result in flood. Consequently, residents in flood-prone areas in the states were warned ahead of these events. How prepared are residents and concerned government agencies in preventing the hazards of flood in Ogun State for the year 2021?
This bridge is too small to the flood that is coming from this up. The time they did this bridge, it's not supposed to have, as in the leg that this bridge have. Assuming that thing is not here, so the stream will just go straight forward. So by the time when the rain is falling, so all those the dirty that they throw inside the river, it will block these drainages here. So when the drainage is blocking here, no way flood will come. It will now spread up. So we can just appreciate all those people that park in the sand in this river. When rain is falling, they will just come. They will park all the stand that blocking all those two areas. But people, they will just come, drop something, refuse all their wasted inside the rivers.
It is just to counsel those who live by the river to prepare themselves for the worst, because it has happened before. It's not a new thing. I think it's something everybody was aware of, where the water came to an high level and swallowed all the houses close to the river banks. And well, those who live there should prepare themselves and expect the worst.
We had to release a public statement in which we gave forecast of the rainfall, using the rainfall information that we have, and the flood outlook that we have, to predict the water releases from the Oyon Dam, which is the main water flood control infrastructure that we have. And we had already mentioned then, because we released this in July, that in July we'll be releasing an average of about 6 to 8 million cubic meter of water from the dam, and this will enable us to have the water level down to about 57.8 meters above main sea level. In August, our releases will be reduced, which as it has been reduced, to the range of 4 to 6 million cubic meters per day, with a mind of maintaining water level below 57.5 meters above main sea level. And this will allow us to create more space to regulate the incoming water towards the months of September and October 2021. So hopefully we'll, on our own part, just like the pattern I've already explained how much water we'll be releasing, we try and ensure that we regulate scientifically, if I want to use that word, and the project manager in Oyo Dam is perfect to do that,
With the rising tide of flood resulting from gradual intensity of rainfall in Ogun, it is hoped that residents in flood-prone areas, agencies concerned with the control and prevention of flood disaster, and government will rise to the occasion to prevent loss of lives and property for the year 2021.
Well, I know that for a fact, all stakeholders must put hands on deck in order to ensure that we actually curb this flooding issue. So now we are going straight to Niger State to see their experience of flooding, and it's put together by NTA Mina.
Flooding in Niger State is no longer news, but a disaster that occurs every year at the commencement of the rainy season. This unhappy phenomenon hit the state devastatingly in September 2019 to 2020. Many lives were lost, houses and farmlands destroyed. This flood affected 22 local government areas out of the 25 local government areas in the state.
Before, due to the interface we used to have with the locals, they would tell you they used to experience flooding in a space of 10 years. But now, because of global warming, climate change, and man activities towards environment have changed everything, that we have to be experiencing flood every year.
We do experience flash floods, I would call it, and particularly also within urban centers. It has become a kind of annual issue as a result of heavy downpour, which is natural. And though the authorities have been working around the clock to ensure that the negative effects of such floods are minimized, curtailed or minimized.
Even though a natural disaster, human neglect of early warnings by Nigerian Meteorological Agency is also a causative agent.
For many people, sometimes they take these things with nonchalance. But the warning from NIMET is based on scientific findings, and people must take it very seriously, because the research is not, they are not just predicting things based on juju. It's scientific. There are many things meteorologists are working, they are looking at the movement of clouds and all that. So people must take it seriously, especially those people who live along the floodplains.
Yeah, people are building. Almost every urban center in Nigeria is being experienced globally. It's expanding. And one of the key measures taken is to do the best in planning all the urban areas, urban centers, particularly in Niger State.
I remember some years back we have a project that would dredge the river Niger, districting our riverbed. Then the river now will be able to accommodate more water than it has been doing in the past. I believe that may check flood. Through both infrastructural approaches, if possible, structural measures have to put in place, like construction of mini dams that will accommodate this excess water, and through no structural, conventional, environment-friendly approaches by creating room, accommodating workshops, where we have objects obstructing the flow of the river, we remove them.
To reduce the devastating effect of this flood yearly, the state government has relocated some of the residents living on floodplains to safer areas.
Well, it's Weekend Deal, and of course we're talking about flooding in Nigeria, and we have joined us in the studios of Weekend Deal the Director General, National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, that's NESRIA, in person of Dr. Professor Aliyu Jauro. Welcome on Weekend Deal, sir.
Good morning, Nigerians.
We're talking about flooding system in Nigeria, and I want to go back a little bit to when I was little. I actually the guest yesterday talked about how the sanitation system was in Nigeria, and I happened to experience it when I was little, but it's no longer there in the system. And these days, we see people dump refuse all over. Instead of I think it was every Saturday or first and last Saturday of the month that they used to do this sanitation, houses will come out, will sweep the whole environment, take it to a place. We have one refuse place for the whole ward where we dump it, and then people will come and take it out and burn it. That's the agency responsible for that. But these days, we don't see that. What is happening? Is it also contributing to all this flooding that we are experiencing?
Yes, certainly one of the major causes of flooding in Nigeria has to do with the indiscriminate dumping of refuse. People are in the habit of just throwing whatever they don't like anyhow, instead of collecting. This refuse we see is unwanted before, but now most of this waste we collect are useful materials. So the best thing is to collect them rightly, and presently a lot of recycling activities are taking place. So as you have said, before there used to be a communal effort being even regulated by the government. We should take responsibility. This environment is for us. If we don't do so, it's going to be devastated, and when it is done, we don't have any place to live. So as you have said, it's very, very important, and this waste, I think there's a lot of value you can get from it.
All right, like you put it, it's something that we should encourage, really, for people to do their regular cleanup exercises. Even though I'm one of those school of thoughts that think that we do not need to map out a day to do cleaning. It's something we should do, from our guts, our habits. Back in the days before certain energies came in, people did their cleanup. You wake up in the morning, you sweep the compound, things were in order. Even though it was a village setting, things were still very done. We didn't need to map out a day to do that. But talking about the days we map out, I have also noticed that in some states, the cleanups, the days of environmental are set up. People actually use it as an extra time to rest at home. They don't get to clean up. And even where the cleanups are done, the gutters are scooped, heaped by the roadside, causing obstruction. And of course, we also know that when the rains come, they pull back the rubbish to the same gutter that were scooped from. Some say that they're waiting for environmental people to pick it up. I don't know. What is the place of law in going around to first ensure that people come out to do cleanups, and then again to scoop out whatever refuse that was removed from the gutters?
As you have said, really we don't need to set out a date and say everybody must come out. The best thing is to have a framework that works. For instance, you can clean up these places daily. These gutters, I know some states, they contracted out some cleaning agents. So daily they will clean up the streets, even the gutters. So when they do that, the volume of the waste they will get, if it's daily, it's not much, which can easily be collected. They have trucks going around to collect everything that they have removed from the gutters and they have swept from the streets. So if we say we just allow it monthly, it's really going to be very difficult, even after removal. So the best thing is to have a very good framework that works, and I believe we can do it daily. You don't have to wait and say, okay, it has to be weekly, it has to be monthly. So if you do that, they can be able to collect the waste. I know of a state where they made an arrangement that all people, when they collect their waste, they should just bring it to the roadside. And it became a problem.
Yes.
Collection became a problem.
Values you instill in children, actually, they grow up to be better in life. And when we look at children as leaders of tomorrow, we have to instill good values in them.
Yes.
And I want to ask you this. Does your agency have any plan in order to see that they catch children young, in order to go to schools and ensure that they know their environmental laws and they follow them, in order to see that we actually eradicate this issue of environmental waste?
Certainly, we have a lot of programs on ground that is tailored toward catching them young. We have a specific department that we call Department of Partnership and Education, which is tailored towards not only educating the young ones, even the adults need to be sensitized on the need to abide by all these environmental regulations. And we are trying to see how we can have some of these educational courses to do with the environment, right from the primary school level. The children should be taught on some of these responsibilities, the need for them to take care of the environment. Because if you do that from the beginning, they will come up with it. Take an example, the issue of sanitation. If you go to a household that is very, very disciplined, that is keen about the hygiene and the cleanliness of the environment, right from the beginning, the child would look at his parent, the way they behave. If the parents are in the habit of just trying whatever they have, that's how the child will come up.
Definitely. So say train a child the way he should go, and when he grows up or old, whatever, he will not depart from it. But speaking of refuse disposal, Lagos is one state that houses, some people will say, almost every family in Nigeria. It's represented in Lagos, including mine, and that's quite huge. How are they managing their refuse disposal system in there, considering the number of people? Let's go find out from the Lagos Network Center. When we come back, our guest is still in the house and we'll talk.
Rainy season breeds happiness and peace in the atmosphere, brings a smile to everyone's face, and good news for farmers to grow and harvest some crops. While on the other hand, it can also constitute an environmental hazard, like flooding. However, the heavy rain witnessed this year have caused serious flooding in both urban and rural areas of some states in Nigeria, and Lagos State is not an exception. The mega city, which received an early warning sign by the Nigerian Hydrological Service Agency that residents should prepare for severe flood in many parts of the state. These could be attributed to the indiscriminate dumping of refuse in drainages and canals, thereby blocking free flow of water and in turn causing heavy flood at the slightest downpour of rain. The crew went round to find out what the Lagos State government is doing to address this problem.
For us in Loma, we're doing a lot of advocacy and enlightenment over the next couple of weeks all across our 57 LCDA to sensitize our people on the importance of ensuring that a proper waste management practices are there too in Lagos State. And in doing so, we have started discussing with all the supervisory councillors for environment across the states to ensure a success on the program. Once we've done that, but while we're still doing that as well, a couple of things we've tweaked in the way we regulate our waste management generally. So also we've made a very good appeal to the justice sector, and the Chief Justice have gladly approved for us more magistrate courts to listen to some of our environmental infraction cases across the state. The benefit for us in doing so is we can start now using the law, enforcing the law on people that are recalcitrant, that continue to do all these infractions all about.
Although Lagosians still have the habit of littering drainage systems and are ignorant of the dangers of poor water disposal. How could this be stopped?
The more people are aware of the dangers of poor waste disposal management, then the more responsible they will be to ensuring that that doesn't happen, especially if they are aware that it will affect their health negatively, and of course the environment as well. I believe that this should be a continuous, ongoing sensitization awareness campaign. And I'm talking television, I'm talking billboards. I'm saying that it's not just in English, it should be in every language, so that everyone can, understand what it's all about.
One of the things there is, if you are caught violating the laws of Lagos State in terms of waste management, you will either be the minimum penalty is to pay a heavy fine, and then the other penalty ranges for 7 days imprisonment up to 6 months. So I want to appeal to all residents of the state to ensure that they understand what their basic requirement is. When it comes to environment, it's not only for Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu as the #1 person in the state, it's for everyone. And down to the unborn child that we have in the state, that we look after environment. Is what you give the environment that the environment throws back at you. So it's very important that we do the right thing.
As stakeholders continue to devise ways for effective waste disposal and management, we must collectively play our role in ensuring that we keep our environment clean and safe, as this is critical in sustaining a healthy community and society at large.
Well, we still have our guest here in person of Professor Jauro with us, and we are talking flooding system in Nigeria. And of course, we saw the report here about waste management. And I want to give a little story. I'm a storyteller. Excuse me. There was a day we went to a farm. We were scouting for farm. My mom loves to farm, so we're looking for land to farm, and then we went to one land, and then we saw like a vast land with waste. And I was asking, what is this? What's this? Why are we having a refuse here? And then another person told me that it's actually used for organic as a manure. So my question here is, how do we turn our waste to wealth, especially your organization? How do we ensure that we turn waste into wealth, especially now that we have plastics, all these things that you can actually use them in order to...
What we call waste now is no more a waste. As you have said, there are a lot of values you can get from it. And right from the households, when we talk about domestic waste, whatever you generate, you are supposed to segregate. Ideally, you're supposed to have like 3 or 4 different receptacles. When you have some food items, that is some vegetables, and you put them in one compartment. When you have some plastics, they should go into another compartment. When you have some papers, you should have separate receptacles. Likewise, when these things are collected, even if it's a truck, they're supposed to have separate compartments, so that whatever is collected is going to be delivered to the right place. For instance, these plastics now are being recycled in this country. That's why early in the morning, if you wake up, you see these scavengers walking around garbages and picking all these valuables, plastics, some metal.
You commissioned them because I see them a lot?
No, we didn't commission them. Okay. They're informal collectors.
Okay.
But we are trying to work out a formal way.
Okay.
There is a provision for that. So all these are very useful. Those food items, which we call, can be turned into fertilizer. Ideally, they can be. We have what we call a compost manure, where there is a process of digging a pit, putting them, and allowing everything to rot to a certain, so that when you remove it, it becomes a very rich manure. As opposed to what you have said, that they just bring all this garbage and dump there. Because when it is done like that, you have a lot of items there. You see there are plastics, see there are even glass bottles, all sort of things. Even though it works for them, but it will end up creating another environmental problem. So the best way is to treat this waste the right way. It should be segregated, and various components of this waste should be channeled to the right places.
I'd just like to know that your agency is doing something, about it, especially, within certain big cities where these things are produced in large quantity. Are you doing something to ensure that people begin to, segregate, and then, of course, you to begin to recycle appropriately?
Yes, we have a lot of regulations to do with that. There is a regulation that is called the National Environmental Sanitation and Waste Control Regulation of 2009. So there are provisions on how people should treat their waste, the issue of this segregation, the issue of recycling, and the issue of polluter pays principle. And apart from that, you know, one of the major generators of this waste are the manufacturers. So we have different sectors. So we have what we call the brown environment. In that brown environment, we have about 9 regulations. So in each of these regulations, we have provision for what we call extended producer responsibility. Whoever generates waste has to take care of that item at the end of its life. When you manufacture anything, that item, when it comes to its end of life, you are responsible for the take back and the recycling, including the packaging, because whatever is produced now, it comes in a beautiful package, and this package is always a waste. So we have what we call the extended producer responsibility. So presently, we have gone far in the EPR program for some certain sectors. We have the food and beverages sector, which generates most of the waste we see, the plastic bottles, even some glass bottles. So they have come together, they form what we call the PRO, Producer Responsibility Organization, which is a third party that manages whatever is generated on their behalf. Likewise, there is also the issue of battery waste. We have also gone far in it. There is also what we call the electronic waste. You know, Nigeria is a dumping ground for most of this. Yes, electronics. When they come to the end of life, they ship them to Nigeria. So we buy them as second-hand or Cotonou. So when you use it for a very short time, it packs up. So we have a lot of these issues. So presently we have gone far in seeing to that. And all this is targeted towards circular economy. When you talk about circular economy, that is whatever is generated as waste is going to be turned back as a raw material. You feed it back so that you have a closed loop.
Okay. That's interesting. Actually, we'll talk about organic waste as well, but then we need to take a feature, and this one is the flooding experience in Ado Ekiti. We are going straight to Ekiti State.
Ekiti State, the land of the hills, is one of the 28 states in the country predicted by Nigerian Meteorological Agency and Nigerian Hydrological Services Agency that will experience flood in 2021. Out of the 121 local government areas predicted, Ekiti State has 3 local government areas, including Ikere, Ijero, and Ifelodun, Irekpodun local government areas.
In the light of this, we organized a stakeholder meetings to deliberate on the way forward and the mechanism that has to be put in place to checkmate the adverse effects of this flood disaster that is likely to happen.
The causes of flood in these areas are not far-fetched, owing to the natural landscape and topography of Ekiti, as well as several flood-inducing activities of the people.
Another thing that is giving us this flood issue in Ekiti is the topography. We know that Ekiti State, like the name goes, Okiti, is surrounded, it's a piece of land that's surrounded by many hills. So this is a factor that has contributed into our experience of flooding. Then, when I talked about the human factor, that is the most, what I can call the most injurious and most pathetic.
I will still want to trace it to poor construction of drainages, because you have a place where you have a very heavy flow of flood, and they will put a very small drainage to carry the heavy flow, and these are part of the reasons why we have floods all around.
As preventive and control measures for flood in the predicted areas and other towns and communities that are likely to be flooded, the National Emergency Management Agency has been in the forefront of advocacy, creating awareness and public enlightenment on flood preparedness, response and management in Ekiti State.
We have been sensitizing and informing as well as educating them to clear their sewages. They should not drop refuse in the gutter or in the covert. They should make sure they clear the drains so that the water will be able to flow freely.
We have desilted our drains, we are still desilting them, and we continue to desilt. It's a continuous process.
Some private individuals and non-governmental organizations have also taken it as a point of duty to assist in the flood mitigation and management efforts.
We were able to touch all the local government that were predicted to be flooded according to NIMET's prediction. And we went there, we met with the key stakeholders, the Obas, the markets, women, the road transport workers, which are the highest generation of waste.
As the rains pour down with high intensity and persistency, it is hoped and indeed residents of other local government areas will take precautions and desist from activities that may precipitate flooding of their communities.
All right, so we still have my guests seated in the studio. Professor Aliyu Jauro, DG Nesra, is still seated with us. I know that with all the questions, I was actually trying to pick out some of the contributions from our people here. With all the contributions I see here, there seems to be a consensus that at least from this side of the divide, that is Nigeria, refuse management, refuse disposal seem to be one of the biggest causes of flooding. That's man-made. Chika from Abia State actually mentioned that.
Like, we have tons of questions to ask, but you know, due to time constraints, and not only that, we should always strive to ensure that we be our sisters and brothers keepers. Even though that other lady asked you to get lost, you shouldn't stop that. Thank you very exactly. Thank you very, very much, sir, for coming. And we have been chatting with Professor Aliyu Jauro, who is DG Nesria, National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency. Now we take a quick break. When we come back, we continue. Well, we have been talking flooding in Nigeria and probable solution.
Someone says here, please, can we have a repeat broadcast? This is a very important aspect of our living. And it says, it's writing from Ogidi in Anambra State. Okay, so I'll take up with that, and I'll simply tell you that the repeat broadcast is at 11:30 tonight. We'll continue to do our best to scream out to ensure that we've told the right attitude, you know, the right path to get Nigeria, and of course you and I great. It's for you to do your own thing. And like I mentioned, refuse marshals is a job all of us should be part of. If everybody speak against it, Aisha, what I always say is from our homes. Your child tears a tissue paper, dumps it on the floor, and you don't say anything. Probably you call a house help. Who dumped this thing? Pick it up.
Exactly.
Instead of you to ensure that that child picks up and goes to the refuse bin in the kitchen, in the room, wherever it is, and drops it there. You know, they get to understand that that's the way to go.
Yes, you know, it is said that charity begins at home. And this rescue mission of flooding issue, it's all on us, the young, the old, even the little children. If we see that we're doing something wrong, clogging the whole drainage system and all that, we should all come out. The neighborhood should come out. We should not just say it is the government's responsibility. It is our responsibility as well to ensure that our environment is clean. Thereby,
Chinua once said that he who brings in ant-infested fagot should not complain at the visit of a lizard. That's the way I would say it. Block your drainage, enjoy your flow. Bye for now.